Welcome back to the Georgia Show. We're brought to you by the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com. You know, Bill, I said in this social media PR today that life's tough, but it's tougher if you're stupid. We're going to try to make people a lot more smarter tonight. So we're going to tell them what they need to know on what's going on politically, what's going on with this Epstein thing. And I know you're going to make some connections, but also the financial markets with Ed Dowd, which is a treat for everybody. What do you see? What do you see for tonight?
So we're going to draw some parallels and watch some patterns in reaction both in here in Georgia regarding the raid on Fulton County's election center, and more generally across the country and really around the world, reaction to what's now emerging from these Epstein documents. There's lots of people reporting the content. We're gonna let that go out from others at the moment, but we are looking at some patterns that I think will be important for people to consider as they begin seeing this stuff. So we'll talk about that, and we will hear from a very important candidate, Chris Mora, and we'll talk to you just before that interview about why this is going to be very notable as we get into qualification and campaign season.
You know, I had this happen this morning on the skiff. We went out to, I don't know, across our X channels, 40,000 people maybe. And when we started the skiff this morning, I had 5 viewers on X. And I thought, maybe it's because of the Sam Shoemate was on. Maybe they don't like what he's having to say. But I'm looking at our X right now, and there's 0 on X. I mean, we are massively getting throttled. That's a deliberate squash right there. I find that fascinating.
Someone else was reporting that today. They brought up, I think it was SGN on. There's a tool that allows you to look at the way that X treats your channel, and I'm not familiar with it personally, but apparently it reports what the algorithm is doing. And SG called out that in his case, he said, this is not amplifying or producing the viewership that it should for me. And SG has, many followers. I think he's over 100,000. And so it looks like he should have plenty of views, and yet that doesn't seem to be appearing. Not sure why this is going on, but it's, as you say, it's important to note.
Definitely. All right. So the way you can help us spread the word is follow our social media. We're building our YouTube channel back, CDM. Go there and subscribe. Even if you don't watch us there, CDM1 on Rumble. We're on X. We're everywhere. Actually, our Truth channel is rocking and rolling. I think we're about to pop 4 million on our Armed Forces channel. We're at 3 million on our CDM channel, and the Georgia Record is moving in on 50,000. So we are cranking on Truth. So that's kind of our go-to right now, and we're really, really happy about that. One way you can help us get bigger and better and spread the news is go to my.cdm.press and sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It's really popular. We get a lot of good feedback. I had a gentleman from Forsyth County call me last week and said, I don't know how to do the internet, but I'm sending you a check. Just manually put in my annual subscription for $100. I did that. And just great interaction with the audience. People love not having ads popping up on their phone when they surf between all of our different channels at CDM. All right, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's get rolling.
Okay, sounds good. So first up, let's talk about some of the reactions. Now, we have shown you in previous weeks that the way people react to things going on, especially here in Georgia, will tell you where they fit, who they are, what their interests are. And it is notable that some of the mainstream media, not just here, but around the country, is failing big. Washington Post about a week ago had dozens or more layoffs. And then I had said when I saw that happen, bet AJC is only a couple steps behind. And literally the next morning, there were dozens of layoffs reported at the AJC. So we figured we better take a look at some of their feedback while we still can.
Yeah.
Here is a report regarding Fulton County's commission chair, Rob Pitts. You'll recall that Rob Pitts went out immediately following the raid on Fulton County's election center and said, we can no longer guarantee and I forget the words he used, but sanctity of the ballots. Now that they're not in our possession, we don't have control of them, so we can't speak to whether they're safe or not. And
Of course, he could guarantee it when nobody could look at him.
that's right. We guarantee we're under protection, but nobody can see them.
Yeah.
He called the allegations in the unsealed affidavit, which is now available to the public, and the public can read what the judge looked at and ordered that caused this raid on Fulton County's election center. And he's calling that affidavit recycled rumors, lies, untruths, and unproven, and here's the key, conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody right now say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, immediately your radar balloon should go up and say, wait a minute, I smell a rat. There is so much that people have called conspiracy theories, and yet we're finding out that much of it, in some cases, dastardly things are being shown. And he adds that Trump is treating the Constitution as if it's just a suggestion by supporting the FBI raid. Keep in mind, we're going to state the facts here. This raid was done under court order. It was substantiated by evidence and prior investigation, and it was done under court order and by the FBI and was observed by Tulsi Gabbard. Now, you, I think, brought out in our last report that the fact that Tulsi Gabbard and the DOJ is involved in this suggests that this is beyond simple investigation, that this may have criminal connotations written around it. We don't know yet, but the very fact that she's involved personally is a semaphore sign, perhaps. Let's take a look at this next one. Here, writing from the AJC, the response from Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Here we go. Oh my gosh, he's rolling out the old safest and most secure. As Secretary of State, I've made Georgia the safest and most secure place to vote. You know, you hear laughter in the background when you read that. Instead of wasting time and tax dollars trying to change the past with baseless and repackaged claims, let's focus on our efforts on building a safer, more affordable future for all hardworking Georgians. Politicians often use a sentence like that because the very end of it makes everybody feel like, oh, he's worried about me and our family. Keep in mind that there have been reams, stacks, hundreds of cases, hundreds of examples of evidence that show that something's wrong, both in Georgia, but also in many states around the country. So to, claim that this is somehow baseless and repackaged claims, falls flat on its face, just as it should. So when you see these things, stop, think. When you say to yourself, where have I heard that before? And how many times has he claimed that we have the safest, cleanest voter rolls in the country? And yet Jason Frazier, David Cate, and many others can show you cases where the voter rolls are deeply flawed to the tune of potentially millions of registrations that shouldn't be there. We don't know the final count, but it is a lot, and it's a lot in many counties. All right, now let's go to the other side of the equation. Here is Dr. Jan Johnston, and in here, she says, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems that Judge McBurney is confused. Now, Judge McBurney came out, and I believe his statement was he was uncomfortable in some way with the Fulton County raid and the subpoena for the election documents. The SEB filed a second subpoena. Oh, pardon me. The Fulton County motion to block the subpoena was for the first subpoena for the election documents. The SEB filed a second subpoena for the actual ballots and actual absentee ballot envelopes. There was no legal action to oppose that subpoena. Fulton County failed to produce the documents. Fulton County is in default of that second subpoena. So whatever comment that Judge McBurney made, it seems that he, quote unquote, was confused. Was he confused? Don't know. He might have been trying to respin the situation. Here, Dr. Jan Johnston calls out all the different things that the county ballots and election documents have been, have to do with them. And you can see this list of items. Now, what's interesting is there are documents that were in existence that talk about exactly 700 boxes. After the raid and after counting what they actually were able to seize and extract from the Fulton County Election Center, they had apparently 656 boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the rest? Where are the almost 50 boxes of election documents that are missing? Now, go back to an interview that I had with Peter Tickton, who happens to be the lead attorney for Tina Peters' team, trying to get her released or released even on bail from the prison in Colorado. Within his interview, he mentioned that they might have already disposed or done away with or done something to some of these ballots. We didn't know at that time because that predates the raid. So isn't it interesting that people were wondering, has Fulton done something with some of these documents that would be that action, whatever they've done, would be uncovered by their inability to deliver some or all of these ballots? Very, very interesting now that some are missing. And indeed, Dr. Johnston called out once again, where are the 50 boxes of ballots and election documents? Fulton County Clerk and Election Director claim, and I believe this is in documentation, they had 700 boxes, but they only gave 656 boxes to the FBI. Where are the other almost 50 boxes?
Has the FBI or the DOJ said anything or confirmed that number? Do you know?
Knowing the process, I doubt that Dr. Jan would have made that conclusion without something from the FBI. I didn't look for it, I have to admit.
Yeah.
So we will check that for the next show if we wish. But my experience with Dr. Johnston and indeed the good members of the SEB, their research, their analysis is usually quite precise. So I believe that they are relying on FBI statements or in fact releases that would indicate this.
There's something. Pull that down for a second, please.
Sure. Yep.
There's an article we put out recently that the FBI confirms vote counting irregularities in Georgia 2020 election. So they're starting to. They're saying we don't know if it's intentional, but they have found things that are abnormal, as they said in Frankenstein.
So it's Frankenstein.
That's right. So we will follow that. Back to you.
Okay. Why don't we, we're going to welcome in our first guest here shortly. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break, and then we come back. Hopefully Chris Mora will be with us and we'll be able to introduce him in.
Great. We'll hear from our sponsors.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money and your future.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. Going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, And our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
So we're very proud to have Velo Airlines as one of our sponsors. Check them out at veloair.com. It's very simple, easy. They fly just one-stop direct flights all up and down the eastern seaboard. The main hub is out of New Haven, Connecticut, but they do fly elsewhere, so check out their route. And it's cheap, easy, and friendly crew, which is a big one for me. Back to you, Bill.
Yeah, as long as you aired the ad from the wellness company, I wanted to call out that I will be interviewing Nick Hulsher tomorrow, and Nick is bringing out some very interesting information regarding the efficacy of ivermectin and some other preparations on cancers, several or a number of cancer types. And that's timely now because there is a move in our legislature to consider a bill that would make ivermectin an over-the-counter drug. Hopefully we're early enough in that to get that and perhaps others approved for over-the-counter use so that people can use it to treat or at least add to, if they choose to, and if they concur with their doctor, some of these other things that are happening to people, turbo cancers and such. All right. With that, I would like to welcome in our guest, Chris Mora. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for making time to be with us, sir.
Thank you.
So it's a very interesting time. Some things have changed. You are running for U.S. Congress in the 11th district. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So things have changed in this last couple of weeks. Tell us what's happened.
Well, I was running against our current congressman, which was Barry Loudermilk. He announced last week that he was going to retire. So we were kind of prepared. We kind of knew that happens. We're going to have a whole bunch of people jumping, possibly even out of the 14th race to jump into the 11th. So yeah, and you know, names are still floating around and whatnot. But we did have someone that ran against Marjorie, Dr. Cowan, back in 2020, that is running. And I've heard a couple other names, but we knew it wasn't going to be easy, and we knew the fun is just starting. So we're all right.
Well, at the same time, I mean, you put down you planted your flag in the 14th or in the 11th district right from the beginning. People, I think, know that, don't they? And so they say, well, Chris was worried about us from the start and knew we needed new representation. So hopefully that will bear weight with the voters in your area.
Well, again, you know, the difficult part that I found, and I've heard this from other people as well, that are more of a grassroots candidate. You know, we don't get any attention from the HAC. We don't get any attention from, you know, the big money candidates will be mentioned, but as grassroots, they don't even want to acknowledge us. So, you know, I've been calling out the HAC. I know why they're doing it. You know, again, that, you know, I've got my roots here in Pickens County and in the 11th district. I have been the, you know, 11th congressional district first vice chair for the GOP for, you know, 3 years prior. You know, yeah, they don't want me to run. They don't want me. They want the establishment candidate to run. And that's who they're going to try to help put in there. But that's okay. That's okay. You know, as I tell everyone, everyone, oh, so-and-so is running. What are you afraid of? Again, we know what we want as a representative. You know, let's stick to our guns. Let's run our campaign. We knew we were running a campaign different than any other campaign. We're going to stick to the plan. We've got volunteers every single day. We're adding new volunteers. So, let's stick with our plan and let's do this. I've never been told, I get told all the time, Chris, you can't do this. And I don't normally listen to people. And it's like, yeah, you can. Believe we can do this.
That's right. So one of the advantages of real grassroots candidates is you are close to the people. You understand what they've been talking about to you as even before the campaign, even before you even spoke of running. What do you think are the top concerns in the district as it stands today? What are the things people are worried about?
I think there's two things that stand out, and it depends on where you are in the district. So if I head down towards Cherokee and Cobb, immigration is one very big issue that they're seeing. They're seeing the apartment complexes, people moving in, illegal immigration there, increase in crime. It's definitely playing a role there in Cobb and Cherokee. Mm-hmm. Not so much in, say, Pickens and Gordon and Bartow, but there I would say just even, and I had to say this, affordability and also veterans. My congressional district has one of the largest in the state of Georgia. We have anywhere between 80 to 100,000 veterans that live in our 5 counties. So, the one great thing that I've definitely seen support from has been our veterans groups. There's things that, quite honestly, I think Congress has let them down. We can't even pass a Bill of Rights for our veterans, which we tried to pass back in October, November. It can't ever get to the floor for a vote, and it's common sense. This is just, we had a town hall in Pickens about a month ago, and we had some veterans that needed some serious help and trying to even maneuver the system, and it was really sad. And it's kind of, and even trying to find them help, and I did find one of the people some help, but it's kind of sad. We need again, America first, right? Let's take care of our veterans. Let's stop taking care of illegals.
Yeah, it struck me. I got a couple more campaign flyers in the mail over the last couple of days, and it struck me that all these folks have, they all apparently go to the same marketing class for their campaigns. What do they wear? They show up in a blue suit, white shirt, red tie, and who's next to him with his thumb up?
That's right.
Every single time. And it's kind of like, wait a minute,
And I think people see through that. I really do. I want to believe
they do too.
I want to believe that people definitely see through it. I want to believe. I know, and I spoke last night in my home backyard, but the people here, they're tired of it. They know they know the lobbyists and NGOs have sold us, basically own our politicians. They do know that. That's why they stopped listening to us. So yeah, they've been very supportive, and again, I'm really excited. We've had, like I said, between volunteers and donations, obviously we still need them coming in, but the support is there, and I really don't. Everyone's like, Chris, so and so has raised, have jumped into the campaign with 1.5 million. Great. Then I'm going to make sure he spends all of it running against me. So great.
Welcome to the fray.
Yeah,
that's funny. I don't know if it hit your. We speak about politicians not reacting, but when there seems to be some level of concern, maybe even fear a little bit, they sometimes will react. I don't know if it hit your radar, but SB 9 came up. We heard it was going to reach the floor for a vote about a week and a half ago. And we and many others went out hard against it as the AI meme bill. And it was threatening 2 to 5 years imprisonment and $50,000 for posting a meme, an AI generated meme that somebody didn't like. They thought it was false.
Yeah.
And it was astounding. And yet what was happening was the House, through a couple players that had tried to pass this in a different form, HB 986, about a year and a half ago.
Yep, I remember.
We're trying to sub on top of the original SB 9 bill. Well, we called out the folks that were sponsoring SB 9 and really raised the red flag along with many others And by golly, the following day and a half, it comes to the floor, and John Albers, the lead sponsor of SB 9, the original bill, himself stands up and moves to disagree with the House substitute, thereby quashing the AI meme criminal, that part of the portion of it. And it goes back to being a bill about using AI or other means to generate child porn. Everybody seemed to be very comfortable with that. Protecting children, good thing. And we did see reaction. What was fascinating was this was within 24, 48 hours of us hearing it was going to go to the floor for a vote on the substituted version. How do you explain this notion of you have to scare people in order to get the proper reaction?
Well, I do agree. I mean, this is where I think as grassroots, we failed in the past. We can march up and down outside the Capitol all we want. They're not paying attention to us. The minute you get inside the building and start flooding their offices and flooding their phone calls and sending text messages, I don't know. Is that going to cost me voters? That's when they pay attention. So that's the stuff we need to continue to do. They expect us not to be paying attention.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it is. They're hoping we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
I mean, look at even the gambling bill that tried to get passed. I think Beach had done that in the past, right?
Right.
We had some basic soapbox type bill, and at the last minute, he tries to sneak in, gambling for the state of Georgia. People need to pay attention. Stuff like that happens all the time.
We're trying to listen to those that are doing a lot of work on analyzing the bills as they come up and so forth. But it's good that we're able to do that. It's sad that we have to, I guess, in some ways. But we hope that things are evolving. Talk to us about the go forward plan, if you can. What do you see as your next steps? What do you think the voters and others should be doing to learn more, to really get involved this time if we're going to make a real fight at this?
Well, definitely come out to moreforgeorgia.com. I've got, like I said, I need volunteers and whatnot. Find out a lot more about my platform. It's kind of no nonsense, common sense stuff. Again, we're plugging away. I just picked up the endorsement of our DA here in North Georgia yesterday. Frank Wood had come out. We're going to continue speaking to the other local elected officials. Again, I think my message is pretty easy to understand. My intention, I'm not going to be bought. I'm not interested in doing the cocktail hour in DC. The people I want to take care of is right here. We just keep plugging along. I've got to get in front of somebody or get in front of I have to be in one of my counties every day of the week. And that's what we plan on doing. Keep plugging away so people can hear my message. Not going to have $1.5 million to run. And that's okay. Because again, if I can get in front of people and we have a good ground game, we've got people ready to knock on doors and we're going to do it. Signs are coming, shirts are coming. We're doing everything we can on our limited budget, but that's okay. We're going to raise more. And I tell everyone, don't worry. You believe in, I don't question it in myself, and I don't think anybody else should. I've got the greatest campaign staff in the world that had said, hey, we're with you to the end, Chris. We're doing this. So, I've got all the confidence in the world.
That's great. I wanted to share this for just a second so people could see it. Here's your, let's see, there it is. There is your website, Mora for Georgia, 4 is spelled out. And they can learn the next events that you're going to be at and so forth there, yes?
Next events, I've got social media on there, on every social media platform. It's, at Mora for Georgia. So come check us out. I'm trying to do videos, trying to like I said, get our message out. Not to bore anybody, but if you really want to find out what I'm all about, best place to go is right there. Or again, reach out to us. Email address, phone number, it's on there. If I don't reach you, if you have to leave a message, I'm going to call you back. So please do. I'd love to talk to everybody.
I've had folks in other counties regarding other campaigns reach out and say, "Hey, I have a restaurant, I have a thing. You know, could we actually do like a little event for this candidate? Because I want to make sure they have a chance to talk to the local folks." And you guys would be open to that, I would assume, yes. And if that were to be offered in your area,
we just had a volunteer, a supporter, reach out today, in fact, and said, "Hey, we're in Cherokee. You know, can I throw an event for you?"
See, I didn't even know that.
Let's do it.
How funny.
Restaurant. Let's do it.
That's great. Any other words that you want to get out to the public while we're together this evening, Chris?
Yeah, please. I may be ignored by the AJC and some of the other liberal media out there. I mean, we do know in most of North Georgia, most of the local newspapers are liberal newspapers. Don't let that deter. It's not deterring us. We know what we were facing. We're going to get the message out one way or another. Like I said, either by knocking on doors, getting out mailers out into the mail, billboards. We're on it. It's all. We've been working on this for months. Again, I started my campaign to run. I didn't wait for an opportunity for our congressman to decide to retire. I started running back in April 2025. So this isn't new. As you even saw, Bill, you've looked at our website. I actually have a full-blown website. We didn't do the one-pager that almost every candidate has out there. We wanted to, I mean, we meant business when we started to do this. So I hope everyone sees that and gives me the opportunity to speak to them. Now, we are having some hesitation in certain counties, but again, we don't get an opportunity in one county, we're just going to work around it. So that stuff's in the works as well. We definitely see a path. We see a path where I think people understand, even in a midterm, the number of votes needed to win a midterm is not as much as you'd think. And if we hit the right groups and get the right number of people to come out and vote, we absolutely can do this.
Yep. And of course, hopefully by that time we will be at a point where we have, I guess I'll call it greater confidence in our elections.
I hope so. I've been waiting to see something happen these last couple of days. I am praying that we see something by next week this time. I mean, it kind of, we all got the word that, it's coming soon, right? I'm ready for soon. I'm ready for the Washington Post that called me an election denier back in 2022 and go, look, I was right. We were right. It's coming.
It's funny you should bring the Washington Post up. I just mentioned earlier in the show that the Washington Post a few days ago laid off a lot of its staff. And I wouldn't be too hurt if the AJC doesn't get around to covering you, because the day after, the AJC laid off, quote unquote, dozens. So they may not have enough staff to make it up to your neck of the woods. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Chris, thank you for being with us, and we will we'll be available to help you reach the public when you have more to share, and we'll be expectantly waiting to hear about the events and things that are going on with you in the coming weeks as you go through qualifying, and then as you prepare for the primary.
I look forward to celebrating with you, Bill.
There you go. That'd be great.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Todd, for giving me an opportunity.
Thanks, Chris.
Good to have you. Thanks again, Chris. Take care.
All right.
Why don't we pay a few more bills here? We'll be right back. Listen to a message from our sponsors.
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good. But I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always trying to, every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
All right, Bill, let's get rolling. What do you have next?
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Epstein situation, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'd like to go to your interview following that. So let's bring this up. So you recall that a number of, I guess it's been several months now, we spoke of Kirill Dmitriev. He's special envoy, reports directly to Putin, and has had some very interesting things. It was his work and doing, along with the ambassador from Russia, that brought out the documents surrounding their analysis of the JFK assassination, in which they debuted news of a Khrushchev Kennedy global peace bridge that had been planned between Alaska and Russia. And that they were planning on, it appeared that they were making plans for some sort of global peace initiative when JFK was killed. So this gentleman has played a very interesting role. He has brought out a number of posts, some of which have overlapped what are called Q posts from the whoever Q is, which is suggested to be a team of military experts that have been supporting some things in the background. He does this again just yesterday, and brings out this, and he says, it's time to say that the quiet part out loud needs to be said. The Epstein case has validated many of Anand's core premises. And by that, he's meaning there are a number of things said in the Q posts that are now, unfortunately, in some cases, being shown to be backed up by facts. And as we go through the coming weeks and days, weeks and months, I think folks are going to have some very difficult pills to swallow when they learn some of these things. But as we go through it, and we're not going to go through detail tonight on the content, but what I did want to show folks is the breadth of the relationships that seem to be being shown. And there's some tools that people have developed, partly with AI. But here's one. This account shows that they debut a tool that's been created that shows that Epstein's connections included 2.1 million relationships. And you can go to that link there right in this post, and you can interrogate those relationships and the nodes and the connections, and you can export data out of it and so forth. So the nodes are up to 3 layers deep, and there's 13,800 orgs linked and 38,000 individual people.
Wow.
I mean, just think about that for a minute. Who on this call knows 38,000 people? I don't. Yeah. And the other piece of this is you can go in here, explore it, see what the connections are. And I guarantee you will see some names that you do not expect to see linked to Epstein. It's already occurring with other tools that are coming out. And here's a bigger view of it, but you can go into this tool and actually look at these things. And then you can, of course, go into the documents and search for things there. This is a second tool, believe it or not, that somebody built. And it allows you to search for official documents that connect affiliates and quote unquote co-conspirators into this. And so there's the names you would expect, but there's also some names you don't expect. And going back to what Kirill Dmitriev said, some of the names appear in Q posts dating back to as early as 2017, I believe. How would that be possible that documents which weren't released would reflect names, would have names reflected from essentially, what, 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago? How could that be? 8 years ago. So it is amazing but troubling. And as we go through, as I said, there's going to be things that come out that are very troubling. We will get to the point where we will talk quite openly about this. We might do it in a slightly different venue. We might have a special or two that we do on this. But we will help people discern fact from hearsay, I guess I'll call it. But I will tell you as we get going into this that the facts that come out are going to be, I believe, quite troubling. Here's another view of that second tool and how many different people and connections are reflected in it. Just as just a one piece, one of the things that, and we won't go into detail here, but there are concerns, I think most people know now, about children within the Epstein actions, whatever those might have been, and within the actions of their confidants. But look at this post from President Trump back before he was president, back before he was a candidate. This goes back to October of 2012. Got to do something about these missing children grabbed by the perverts. Too many incidents, fast trial, death penalty. How would he have known?
Yeah.
And if he did know, does that have something to do with the reason that he ran for president? We don't know yet, but it is fascinating. And it is literally a month after, I think it's 1 month after the email shown in the Epstein documents that alludes to there's something here to do with children. So how would Trump have known, and does that explain why he decided after that point to get involved and become president of the US? Here's a relatively benign thing, but I want you to remember when we talk about some names and connections that will be very uncomfortable for many people. The background of this is a cabin that is at the Balmoral Castle area, and it's the Queen's Balmoral cabin. And you can see a picture on top of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and you can actually see it's the same cabin based on flaws, based on cutting that is very specific to the logs that make up the cabin. And you can see it in both the top picture and the bottom picture with the Queen, and I'm not sure who is with her, but one of the other people that's visiting that cabin. So that's where Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were. What ties do they have to the royal family? Again, we don't know. And then lastly, one last little hint here. You're going to hear the name Ball. We have talked about it in the past. And again, we're not going to go deep into this at the moment, but within one of the Epstein documents already, they found that he named his bank account Baal, B-A-A-L. It stands for an old pagan god that is represented usually by a bull, and sometimes with other characteristics. Remember that name, because I bet you'll see it again as we go forward.
And Baal is actually one of many names of the same god, same deity that is believed. Others names are Mithra and other, it could even be Lucifer or whatever. So it's interesting.
That's right. Many people know that within Christianity, the devil can be referred to under many names himself. We often have not used Baal or Moloch or the other ones that some of the pagan folks used. All right, I want to spend just a moment on what we're seeing in the polls so far, and they are diverging a bit, but I wanted to at least recognize them. This is from Interactive Polls on X, and it shows Rick Jackson with 24, Burt Jones with 16, Brad Raffensperger with 9. How could that be? Georgians are smart. We trust you guys. We know you're smart. You're smarter than letting that guy become governor when he's off telling you we got the cleanest voter rolls in the country, and we just got through showing you what the reality is. Go look at Jason Frazier's analysis. Go look at Peter Berniger's analysis if you want to understand the state of our voter rolls. But I can't believe that even 9% are somehow in Raffensperger's camp. Here is the New York Times poll. It again is showing Jackson in the lead by apparently 8, and then Jones leading by 6 from a different poll. I'm not sure that I trust even the New York Times. One of the things I will call out, though, is look at the third line, Rosetta Stone. Where have we heard Rosetta Stone before? That's John Garst's company, I think. Yeah, very interesting. How is he showing up in the New York Times poll? And then lastly, here's Real Clear Politics. This is many people have relied on Real Clear Politics for their thoughts. Shows Jackson at 20, Jones at 19, and Raffensperger at 9.5. Still higher than I would expect. And it looks like Chris Carr, well, the car may have missed the bus in this case. He's down at 5 points. So we will see how this continues to play out. But I wanted to at least share those as we get closer and closer to the primary and to the qualification date. So we'll know who the actual candidates are for everything. All right. That's what I have. Let's go over to you, Todd, and hear your interview, please.
Yeah, so I sat down with Ed Dowd, who's a former Blackrock portfolio manager, now principal at Finance Technologies in Hawaii. Very smart guy, master of the universe type. And as you know, capital markets is a big push at CDM. So I think you'll enjoy this interview. It's very insightful, particularly on what's going on in China. I'm honored to be back with a good friend of the show, Ed Dowd. He's principal at Finance Technologies, formerly at Blackrock, and kind of a master of the universe. So Ed, thank you for coming on today.
I wouldn't say master of the universe, but thanks for having me on,
Todd. We were talking before, it's discouraging seeing what's going on politically and economically. Give me your gut feel as to what's happening, please.
Well, Trump's approval ratings are hitting new lows, I think, as of yesterday. And he needs to, before the midterms, he needs to pull a 180 on his recent pronouncements on immigration, the softening of the deportation talk, and also accountability. Those are the two major issues. That's why he was elected. And also he was elected because of the economy, and he just needs to be honest about the economy. There's been a little too much gaslighting on we're in the golden age. We're clearly not in the golden age. We're in a silent labor recession. The capital markets will figure this out eventually. What's been holding up the economy is a slow walking of illegal deportations and shutting down the fraud, and AI data center spend, which that story is starting to unravel. It's clear to a lot of people, especially the capital markets recently, and the behavior of these stocks in the earnings season. The big AI plays have all announced massive capex. The stocks were not rewarded. People are now starting to figure out that there's not enough power to hook these data centers into. And so, the markets are starting to anticipate a dilution of the stock, no returns. And oh, by the way, that CapEx spend will probably be never come to fruition, and CapEx will pause at some point. So the markets are starting to sniff this out. Yesterday we had, I think the Challenger jobs report came out, the largest layoff since January of 2009. And the bond markets responded. The 10-year went lower. Stock sold off. So labor markets and growth expectations are going to start to shift from growth and inflation to slower growth and deflation. And yields are going to go lower. Stock prices will come under pressure. We have a housing problem that's been rolling over slowly. The boomers are not realistic on the sales of their homes. The prices of millennials, the buyers can't afford it. We have a spread on homes for sale versus homes sold that we've never seen before. Usually those two time series track, and so that there's the housing market's frozen, and it's slowly going lower, and that's going to turn into, I think, a twin problem of a stock market bubble bursting while we have a housing problem. And not to mention, China is a disaster. China is going into the acute phase of its crisis. We have a big report out on that, and that's going to cause contagion from Asia. Asia is in trouble.
Wow. So on the housing issue, let me drill down there. A lot of you've talked about before that this was driven by immigration, illegal immigration, putting pressure on the housing market. Do you think that's backing off, or not? I mean, what, 2.5 million plus have maybe left?
Yeah, look, right as in the fourth quarter of 2024, new tenant rents started plummeting, and new tenant rents lead all tenant rents, lead home prices. So that started in 24. That's continuing. We had a unprecedented, speculative housing boom after the Fed lowered interest rates to zero for COVID, bought back 1.4 trillion in MBS. So that freed, that gave new capital to the banks to lend. So we had unprecedented price appreciation in homes. Then we started to see supply come onto the market, and we had a huge multifamily boom, the likes of which we haven't seen during the 70s, and that was driven by immigration. And those projects are going to start rolling over. They're going to get underwater. That's already starting. So that
may be a good thing, because they were encroaching, like in certain states, especially in the Northeast. They're taking over local zoning and building all these massive, pod houses. Essentially, you see them all over the suburbs everywhere. I mean, is that going to slow down?
That's already in the process of slowing down. The new permits peaked in 22. The reason why the housing market and the construction market has stayed okay is because multifamily housing projects take longer than a year. A single family home from permit to finish is about a year. These projects are longer. Construction is starting to roll over. Workers are going to get, that's going to add to the layoffs. So it's the classic cycle. And the market is paused because of affordability. Home prices are about 30% too high by our calculation. And the only thing that fixes this is price. And President Trump's not helping himself by making pronouncements. I want to protect people's wealth. I don't want home prices to go down. Well, first of all, he doesn't control that. He can do some things on the edges. He's announced, he told Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy mortgage-backed securities to tighten mortgage spreads, $200 billion. That's not going to do it. The market's the market, and the only thing that clears this is prices. And when you have a weak labor market that's going to get worse and more layoffs, we've seen this movie before. Home prices eventually will collapse. And if we get the stock market bubble bursting, the boomers who are sitting on their stock market gains will start to get nervous, because that's probably what's preventing them from lowering prices. They feel fat and happy, but once you get the two of those things going in the wrong direction, they'll panic and lower prices.
So should Trump be getting on the horn and national addresses once a month and tell people and be honest with people? Look, we got to go through some pain to deal with what I inherited, and it'll come.
He should have done that last year. Unfortunately, he owns it. And, some fireside chats would be great, but I don't think he's got it in him. He's been talking about this as the greatest. I just don't. His advisors are giving him a bunch of BS. He was on an interview. He was talking about how great the economy is, and then I think the interviewer said, "Well, the polls suggest that's not correct." He said, "Well, the polls are wrong," or something like that.
Yeah. I saw that. It's discouraging. And meanwhile, he's talking about building an arch. I'm like, dude, that's your legacy, but it's not. I mean, I'm glad DC's cleaned up, but wow. Tell me about China. We're entering a demographic crisis. What else is the crisis there? It's like several things at once, right?
Yeah, so we put out an extensive China report that's available on our website, financetechnologies.com. We have a cheap version, and we have the institutional version, two different versions. Basically, we did a deep dive. And first of all, I just want to compliment my partner. He did a lot of data mining. The data is not easy to work with. You have to kind of fix it, because they don't report numbers in January because they take a holiday. So you have to link the series, and it's not easy work to do. But the data suggests that their economy, which really kind of peaked out in 2020. That's when the demographic decline really began. They plateaued in 2015, and then they decided to overbuild homes to keep people employed to the tune of 20 years worth of housing supply into a demographic decline. So the first part of their crisis is new starts, new builds plummeted 70%, but a lot of the projects were long-lived. So construction has only dropped 20%, but that's now going to into the crisis mode. So their internal consumption is going to fall off a cliff, and there's going to be more labor problems in China. And their GDP came in at 4.5% in the last quarter. That was the lowest GDP number in about 3 years. And then, additionally, their fixed new investment for the first time in the fourth quarter went a year-over-year growth rate went below zero for the first time ever. If you take out the COVID blip, which was very temporary, their fixed investment is now going negative year-over-year growth. So this is all coming to a head. Their GDP prior to COVID was 80% of priced in US dollars. Their GDP was 80% of the US. Priced in US dollars today, their GDP is 60%, and their GDP growth priced in dollars has been zero since COVID. So
wow.
They got problems.
So is that why Xi's consolidating power?
That if you want to know what's going on with these power struggles in China, it's directly related to the tremendous strain that they're under. And so what they did post 2020 was ramp up the export machine, and this is why we have trade wars. So they've been able to kind of grow their economy in yuan at 5% by exporting to the world, and that's kind of filled the gap. But with all these tariffs and whatnot and these trade wars, that's bearing down on China. And so we have a big economic crisis coming in China, and it won't be advertised because people don't know people don't know how to analyze it, and there's not a lot of data. But there is enough data that you can put together time series that show the rate of change and the trend. People say the Chinese numbers are bunk, but we've proven that they're generally okay, and especially if you want to figure out the trend.
So how does that impact the U.S.? I don't think Europe really matters anymore, but
well, it's going to cause contagion from Asia. So Japan, which has already got its own problems and a central bank problem, China is Japan's #1 trading partner. The U.S. is #2. That's on total trade, imports and exports. South Korea, same thing. So there's going to be an Asian crisis that will, reverberate around the world. Japan's already having problems with their debt issues and their currency. So it's just going to get tougher as we roll through 2026.
Is that why the metals market, part of why it's rallying, or is that just monetary debasement in general?
Gold and silver are their own thing. They're anticipating distrust in a lot of government institutions and geopolitical issues, war, debasement, what have you. The copper is being hoarded by China. They're not actually putting it into industrial demand because the industrial demand is declining. But they have so much excess money supply, and they're debasing their currency that they've decided to start turning fiat money into real things. So they're hoarding copper, and that also may be indicative of a potential geopolitical conflict down the road. So they want copper on hand.
Yeah, wow. It's like in Russia when there's currency issues, they all go buy TVs. It's like, so they can sell them. So what should Trump do on the economy right now? We've got the tariffs in place. Yes, that's creating revenue, but if you're saying deflation, then that's not going to be a problem with inflation. So what should Trump do right now, do you think?
Well, Trump should change the messaging. It's a messaging. Yeah. I mean, he can't stop the cycle. I'm a big believer that this is an endogenous cycle inherent to the system. We're starting to see the credit part of the cycle manifest. We're seeing private credit come under pressure. Blackrock just marked down one of its big private credit funds 19%. So we're starting to see credit tighten, credit unravel. The U.S. consumer is dead and getting more dead as we go forward, and eventually that'll affect the cash flows to the system. There'll be more bankruptcies and cash, and the Fed is behind the curve. Real interest rates are around 1%, and they should be 100 basis points lower just to get to neutral. But we're going to have to go below that to stimulate the economy because the economy is not growing. this 4.5, this 4% GDP number we got coming is due to some tricks on the import export line and GDP data center spend. And that does not give people jobs. These data centers do not produce jobs.
What about the Fed? Is Warsh going to get confirmed, do you think?
That's up for debate, but I was surprised by this pick, because if you listen to what he says, he's not a big fan of using the Fed balance sheet. He thought that the QE was a disaster and you just inflated assets. So it befuddles me a little bit why he was chosen. And if he gets in there, the capital markets will be probably a little upset by that, but it is what it is. I was just shocked that he was actually picked, because he wasn't the guy. And what I'm hearing from people that care about asset prices on Wall Street, that the whisper before anybody was confirmed was anybody but Warsh. That was the mantra on Wall Street.
Well, maybe that's a good thing then, knowing Wall Street. Where do you see bonds in the next short run?
Look, this is. I said yesterday that yesterday was the first day the capital markets maybe woke up a little bit, and that growth expectations on the economy and inflation are changing. It's a process; it'll take time. But I put out a post in the middle of January saying, unpopular opinion, U.S. long duration Treasuries will be the best asset class by the end of 2026. And the current theme is, the U.S. government is going, the dollar's going to zero, U.S. debt is trash. But when we have a slowing growth, what sets the bond markets are growth expectations and inflation. You know this, and once those change and other risk assets sell off, we're going to see a flight to safety. We're right in the process of renormalizing the yield curve, which after 1,000 days, I think 1,000+ days of inversion, the longest inversion ever. Once the yield curve starts to normalize, a recession is right in front of you, and it's starting to normalize. So it's what we call in our bond days a bull steepener. It's a bull steepener for yields. It's not a bull steepener for the economy.
Wow. Let's talk software and its sister AI and crypto. What you mentioned that there's no jobs created, and that the AI data centers are not going to get built as they're advertised. But what do you think happens to that whole sector? It's really been hammered in the last few days.
Yeah, so the software as a service sector has been smashed. In the last 30 days, it's given up 6 years of relative returns. It's been a wipeout. The current thought on Wall Street is that these companies are dead on arrival because of AI. That may or may not be correct, but that's what the current sentiment is. One of the big problems is private equity and private credit is funded a lot of these what are now considered zombie companies that don't have any profits and cash flow. So a lot of those companies are going to end up being zeros, and you know how this works is the feedback loops. Once bond people don't like to see things go to zero, so there'll be a tightening of credit. So that's the current sentiment on software as a service, and that just and so I was talking to a smart risk manager at a hedge fund, and we were debating what that means. Can you have a software sector that's imploding and keep the multiples on AI that don't show any return on equity yet? And so you can't have tech, which has been leading the index, have one big sector of tech implode and then hold those multiples on the other parts of tech that are supposedly going to eat their lunch. The math doesn't math.
Where do you see value in just good old-fashioned dividend stocks and cyclicals, or what?
I don't like the stock market in general. Once this gets going, I've been if I had my hedge fund funded, which we're working on, I'd be in mostly U.S. government treasuries out about 5 to 10 years.
Wow. Crypto? Any thoughts there? Just
look, crypto. People have been asking about crypto for years, and I'm not, pro or con. I'm a math guy, and it's always been 95% correlated to the Nasdaq. So know what you own. You own piece of the NASDAQ. Interestingly enough, crypto peaked in October, and it's getting absolutely smashed. And the NASDAQ, should have followed. But the NASDAQ is consolidating sideways. So either Bitcoin's going to rally or the NASDAQ's going to go down to meet Bitcoin. Something's going to give at some point. But Bitcoin is also, with the recent revelations in the Epstein files, people are finding out that they've been, funding sex trafficking and illegal activities for the global cabal elite. And I think if you were buying Bitcoin for freedom, that doesn't ring freedom. So
No.
there's a problem with Bitcoin. Technically, it looks like it could, if I had to guess, it consolidates here, does another bear market flag kind of pattern, and then goes to a lower low after weeks of consolidation. That's my guess.
Interesting. What about, do you know anything about the kind of the whole tokenization of the economy, XRP and all that stuff? Any thoughts on that?
Obviously that's a boon for Wall Street. I don't know why Main Street would care. It's the, you and I have been in this business a long time. It's the newest fad. Larry Fink wants to tokenize blades of grass. I mean, I don't really understand it. And I don't think it's going to go as smoothly as they suspect.
It would be nice to move money instantaneously, but other than that, I don't see where it's creating money, or creating value, but that's just me. Anything else you want to get out, Ed?
There's going to be a lot of news flow over the next, I say, 6 months, and it's going to be difficult to kind of figure out what's going on. And I think it's your job and my job to kind of sift through the noise and figure out reality. And unfortunately, the war drums are beating. We might go to war with Iran at any moment. China is in such dire straits that they need a distraction. And then we, of course, have insane Europe wanting to go to war with Russia. So we got a lot of uncertainty ahead of us. We have the cycle bearing down on us. There's going to be a lot of chaos, and people will point to this reason or that reason as to why the stock market's going down. The stock market's going to go down because of the cycles, period, nonstop. Not because of, some Fed pick or this or that. They'll make up an excuse, but once the market stops consolidating, and it's in what I think is a distribution process, there'll be a markdown period, and people will panic.
Ed, thank you very much. You going to CPAC?
No, not this year.
Okay. All right, my friend. Take care. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Bye. Couple things I wanted to say. One, after Reagan came in, we had a really bad recession just because we needed some pain to deal with the economic problems. Number two, I think it's part of our job to highlight, I think we're all supporters of Trump, but just, the messaging has not been great. I tend to agree with that. What say you on the economy itself?
There's so many things that don't seem to be doing their moves in a traditional fashion. It's difficult to say whether he could have said anything that would match the condition we're in. And yet there are signals that some things are moving in a good direction. The market has continued to move forward. Is that self-fulfilling prophecy? I'm not sure. But I'm not willing to give up on the, positive outlook. I heard a lot of things that seem to raise concern. I don't necessarily debate that, but I think there's always the opportunity to move forward. And I can't think of anybody in recent history that can figure out a way to make that happen better than our.
I agree. I think the issue is we've got to get from A to B, and there could be some pain from A to B, and people need to realize that, because what he inherited is a disaster. But I think we are moving in the right direction, and we do have a lot of the right policies. But I guess I'm concerned about the midterms, and we need here to talk about, we're going to deliver truth here and different opinions, and that's what we do at CDM. People can make their own decisions. You got anything else?
No, that's it for now, and we'll see what goes on the rest of the week.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. We'll see you all soon.